Share with someone.
Oh, good.
Share with someone.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this month's installment. That's so really cool. My two spots are going to be music. I'm so double plus thrilled. For those of you who don't know, my name is Janet, and we do this on the first Sunday of every month from 3:30 to 5:30, and I am pleased to have you here with us. I usually start off with a poem, and so I just thought I'd randomly pick out something from a book. This is a collection book that was done in the past from cc&d magazine called One Solitary Word, and it has chapbooks and things in the back, and because a long time ago I decided to write poems for every element in the periodic table, I've got a bunch of them in here, and I thought I would read one of them that is in this book for you right now. You get to have a science lesson too because you're at the bookstore. This is element 109 in the periodic table, MT. This is Meitnerium.
Meitnerium, do I know him?
You know, I'm driving along and I'm like, I'm supposed to write a poem about Meitnerium? What, I mean, like, this is one that's so high up that there's nothing about these elements, and they got like little bits. I'm like, who discovered it? Blah blah blah, and that's how I was able to do this poem. This is 109. This is Meitnerium. Performance artists and feminists alike will jump at the chance to explain that women aren't treated fairly in this world. Women in the workplace make 70-some cents to the man's dollar, and if they're married, they're still expected to take care of the kids and cook, and they cook their meals and they have to clean the house. As a woman, I can tell you that I'm objectified nearly every time I go outside for a long walk when horn honks and catcalls come my way. And objectively, it is tough when the cards seem to be stacked against you as a woman trying to get ahead in the world. And I hate to be the person who squashes the ego of all women out there, but if you think it's rough for you women now, think of the uphill battles that you'd have to climb if you lived, say, a century ago. That was a time when women didn't have a right to vote, and why on earth would they want to go to school unless they wanted to be a teacher or a nurse maybe? But there is their place is at home, to live, to agree with what the breadwinner says, the husband, the father, the patriarch, the master. Because not all of you may have a scientific mind. Well, one woman, Lisa Meitner, born to a Jewish family in Austria 10 years before Hitler was blocked in so many ways from achieving his goals in his life, because she actually got her doctorate degree in physics in the days when women weren't even allowed to attend schools of higher education. You know, Professor Planck in Berlin, who usually rejected any woman wanting to attend his lectures, allowed her in, and in a year, Meitner even became his assistant. She later worked without a salary before she worked in Prague as an associate professor. She was the first woman in Germany to become a full professor in physics, and she even co-discovered nuclear fission with Otto Hahn. I mean, Albert Einstein even praised her by calling her the German Marie Curie. And yeah, as Adolf Hitler came to power, and most of her colleagues emigrated from Germany after they were forced to resign their posts, Meitner just immersed herself in her work until she witnessed the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria into Germany, and she felt forced in 1938 to flee to Holland, then Sweden. But a chemist where she worked, Kurt Hess, who was an avid Nazi, and so he even informed the authorities that she was about to flee, and so she was lucky she could even escape. Meitner even said that she escaped with only 10 marks. But before she left, Otto Hahn gave her a diamond ring for her escape in case she needed to bribe some frontier guard. She didn't need to use it in her escape, so the ring was later worn by her nephew's wife. But after her assistance with nuclear fission, she didn't want to think of this being used as a weapon, and she refused to offer to work on the Manhattan Project. The sad thing is that she co-discovered nuclear fission, but it was her male coworker, Otto Hahn, who was awarded the 1944 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of nuclear fission. As some historians say, Meitner should have been awarded the Nobel Prize with Hahn, but keep in mind that this was a man's world back then. So, though she thought she was nominated for the Nobel Prize 3 times, she had received awards in later years, in addition to having craters on the moon and on Venus named after her, in addition to element 109. And yeah, element 109, meitnerium, is a highly radioactive synthetic element. Its radioactivity makes me think of how that nuclear fission that she co-discovered with Otto Hahn, and they also discovered the element protactinium, but when it came to naming element 109, it was the only proposed name, making meitnerium the only element named specifically after a non-mythological woman. And really, there is so little of this meitnerium that people can only guess at its properties. But learning and discovering seems to be something Meitner was all about, facing all odds to achieve so much. Meitnerium. Chosen to be the finale reader in a mini feature for the Tuscaloosa Night Sky Festival. So I had written poetry about astronomy that was put into this chapbook, Night Sky. That is going to be probably in a cc&d collection book in the future, but I've got poems. These are beginning poems that were in this show. Nancy is the only person that I knew. None of you guys were there, so I thought I'd share some of these. This first poem was what was an honorable mention for their contest for their performances. So it had to be the first poem that would be in my feature, and it is called Where We've Been and What We've Seen. I have journeyed around the world with you. After all I've seen, I'm now an astronomer, an observer looking out in the night sky, into the universe, out past the solar system, past the Kuiper belt, trying to understand what makes everything, everything. I fly in airplanes, I jump from airplanes, I pilot airplanes getting closer to the stars. Molecule by molecule, we originate from stars, and we are all linked, our bodies formed from stardust. But outer space is a violent place. Violent explosions create the stars, and our Earth has earthquakes, avalanches, volcanoes, El Niños, tornadoes, tsunamis, typhoons, and in all of this madness, somehow I found you. With you, I have watched solar storms from the Arctic Circle's aurora borealis. We've even seen it dance over Greenland from our window, 40,000 feet in the sky. I've seen galaxies collide, I've seen comets smash into planets, I've seen supernova and the death of stars, and in all of that, I still found you. As I said before, I'm only an observer, but I've found what I've been looking for. And with these observations, I thee wed. And I'll tighten my grip on your hand when we travel into the night together.
Yeah.
And then I did a couple pieces about the moon, and that's why I'm going to share with you 2 poems about the moon. This is called Earthrise. It's a pretty daunting task, landing man on the moon. So first things first, NASA had to map the moon fast so they'd know where to land. So we launched Lunar Orbiter 1 to orbit and photograph it. This orbiter had a full photo lab on it.
Wow.
That not only took photos but also developed film in space. Housing huge 70mm film reels, it clicked pics in zero gravity. But then NASA pointed the camera at Earth as an afterthought to see the first Earthrise on film. We raced the Soviet Union for space, but the Earthrise showed the world that we're all on this tiny blue ball. And with this view, all of our problems seemed far too small. This last one is portions from the poem, From Orpheus to Nuking the Moon. I'll say that again so you understand what I'm saying. From Orpheus to Nuking the Moon. Yeah. NASA's artist-in-residence, Laurie Anderson, learned from scientists at NASA that during the Cold War, they considered setting off nuclear bombs on the dark side of the moon. Because, you see, no one sees that side of the moon. No. But astronomers now estimate that because of gravity's change, the moon every year is over an inch and farther, maybe an inch and a half farther away from the Earth. Huh. So, if you remember the moon looking so big when you looked up at it in the night sky when you were younger, well, you may have been right. Thank you. No, it's been a astronomy themed stuff. And I don't have my list on me, but I already know that I've got my musicians first, so. Hi. Because some of you didn't make it to the Texas Night Sky Festival, where I read pieces, I'm going to read to you a couple of poems that were toward the end of this festival performance, finale performance. So they're not about the moon, though, any longer. We're done with that. But I thought I'd share them with you because some are new and one is old. This one is stuff that is from the poem Queen of the Night Sky. What did we think during the Renaissance when we saw this flash of a new star, Tycho's supernova, in the constellation throne of Queen Cassiopeia? Queen Elizabeth asked astrologers to make sense of it, and China's Ming Dynasty warned of this evil omen. It was brighter than Venus and Jupiter even in the night sky, and it was more earth-shattering than William Shakespeare, who shared the same simple scrap of youthful time. Anyone from Edgar Allan Poe to James Joyce can wax poetic about supernova, while we search for chances to see the last hurrah of now dying massive stars. When a giant star sun runs out of fuel, gravity wins out and it pulls the star in, while the outside explodes in the largest explosion the human eye has ever seen. The beauty of what's left behind is a nebula, like the one in Orion's sword that Hubble photographs, tempting the artist's eye with science. So, look up at the night sky every once in a while, for who knows what you might find. These rare supernovae have helped us discover measurements of distance in space, and they also give us reasons to fall in love with astronomy all over again. From the poem Travel Through Space. I love astronomy, but I don't think I'll actually go into outer space. But maybe I have. All radio and TV signals are shot out into space. They continue past our Earth into the ends of the universe. I've been on multiple radio shows across the United States, and I've even been interviewed and read poetry and even danced on TV. I wonder how far my voice has now traveled into outer space by now. What stars have seen my poetry by now? I wonder if anyone out there can decode our signals and understand what we're trying to tell them. Thanks. And this last one, the end of this one, is from a poem called Queen Beyond an Icy Tale. And it was about the birth of an astronomer who discovered a comet, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to read the poem. I needed to discover more. I needed to start my quest. I will search through the sky, find a new comet, get lost in the icy tale that strikes at me with such beauty. For astronomy helps me see what I am truly meant to be. Because even historically, the planet Venus means beauty. And that is all I want people to remember about me. Astronomy is beautiful, right down to those craters on Venus. And even if no human could ever touch or walk on these, the knowledge, the understanding is beautiful and all we need. Thank you.